So there's a segment in here where I talk about a remarkable person, Jesse Hildebrandt. I watched Jesse's interview on Mormon Stories, and after I watched a whole bunch of the interview, I started recording this, and then I went back to watch it again and a little bit more, and the host made it clear that Jesse's pronouns are actually they, them. So I really want to apologize for using she so often in this video, but the appropriate pronouns for Jesse are they, them. I did try to correct myself during the second half of shooting this. We did shoot it like over 2 separate days, but I just wanted to put that out there. That was a big blunder on my part, and I never want to misgender people if I could help it, and it's not intentional. Jesse was gracious enough to say, even on the show, that they appreciate people just putting forth the effort to not misgender them, and mistakes happen. So if you do it, they're not really feeling too much of a way about it, but they really do appreciate the effort. So I want to put this in there. The pronouns for Jesse Hildebrandt: they, them. Know it, use it, respect it. Thank you so much. Welcome back to another episode of Bred in Captivity Reactions. I'm joined in the studio by my producer, and we're here to talk about the whole 8-passenger story. Let's get into it now. Go ahead and say hi to the people.
Hello. I just want to let you guys know if I sound a little different, it's because I'm sick.
All right, and the cough seals it up.
No, that was a Mean Girls reference.
That's how you cough?
No, it's a Mean Girls reference. You know when Regina George calls and Karen.
Yeah, the girl who could tell if it was raining by touching her.
Karen.
Her name was Karen. That's right. Oh.
Nobody listens to me.
Yikes. Okay. We're here to get into a different Karen story, actually. The 8 passengers Karen story. Now, I've asked you not to follow this because I knew we were going to cover it. I absolutely knew we were going to cover it. Do you know much about it already, though?
No, because, like you said, I did not follow along any of the news.
That's exactly what we want to hear. Okay, so I'm going to give you a quick breakdown of what it is, just in case there's some people out there like you, like my producer, who have not been following along. So quick summation. This woman, her name is Ruby Franke. I know it looks like it's Frank, but it's Franke. So Ruby Franke has her husband and 6 kids, and they are Mormons belonging to the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints. If you guys cringed a little bit hearing that name, then you probably already kind of get why this story is really not going to be typical. Mormons in the news, not great. The Latter-day Saints in the news, not great. Historically, just has not been great. And right now is no different. So Ruby, her man, their 6 kids, they're a beautiful family, right? She's a conventionally good-looking woman, thin, basically symmetrical, blonde. Like she just looks like a good-looking Midwestern American woman. And she has these kids, and they're religious, and they're Christian, and they're blonde, and it just seems like life is perfect. She starts recording everything that her and her kids do and putting it on YouTube under the channel name 8 Passengers, and it becomes like a really successful family blogging channel. She records everything. What she's doing with her kids, when she's driving, where they're going, how school is going, but most notably, punishments. She records herself punishing the kids a lot. Now you might be asking yourself, what kind of punishments are we talking here? Spanking, grounding? This is where things start to get really weird. Now, just to let it be known, I was raised by parents who did not spare the rod, okay? I got it all the time. Belts.
We are ethnic in this household.
We're hella ethnic, okay? Belts, sticks, phone cords, dishes, wooden spoons. I've seen all of those things. And even I think what Ruby is up to here is messed up, okay? So
I don't trust it.
Oh my God, it's so bizarre. So
wait, you know what's also weird to me is why is she recording punishing her children and putting it up on the internet?
She doesn't believe that anything's wrong. And that's kind of that's kind of another aspect to this, okay? She does not believe that anything that she's doing is wrong. She's doing this in a way that I think is braggy, which is really interesting because we're about to find out that she believes in these like certain pillars, and one of them is humility. Okay, the other 2 are not being in distortion, being in truth, impeccable honesty, and rigorous personal responsibility. The irony is killing me because she's in prison right now. So rigorous personal responsibility, check whether you want it or not. But let's get into why she's crazy. One of the things that you notice when you're watching her videos is she's always bringing her kids in to talk about exactly how they're feeling, whether they want to be on camera or not. Specifically, the 12-year-old boy who was the one that actually escaped and went to the police and kind of started this whole thing blowing up. So the 12-year-old young child, Russell, is the one that escaped from the home of Ruby's associate, Jody Hildebrandt.
Sorry, quick question.
Yes.
What do you mean he escaped her house? Was he living there?
Yeah, I'm going to get into it.
Okay, continue.
So let's rewind a little bit. She likes to record everything she's doing. She loves humiliating her kids, and the kids don't like it. And Russell is one of the kids that very obviously doesn't like it because he's constantly running away from her on camera, hiding from her on camera, does not want to be recorded. And for obvious reasons, this is a child. He's going to school. This mom has a YouTube page and she's putting everything out there about what the kids do. And honestly, as she believes that everything that you do wrong is like has to do with shame. And shame is because you're repressing like the truth about a sin you've committed. And that's why Russell ain't trying to be on camera. Are you following this logic? Russell's done something wrong. He's feeling shame. Shame is causing him to avoid being on the camera with his mom. And she's breaking that down for the whole world. And
that's so crazy.
It's so bizarre. Punishments that she's doled out to these kids. Russell has a younger sister named Eve. When Eve was 6 years old in kindergarten going on to the first grade, she forgot to pack her lunch. First of all, why are 6-year-olds packing their lunch? It's a 6-year-old. They don't even have like great motor skills yet. But she forgot to pack her lunch. She goes to school and the teacher at Eve's school texts Rudy. Hey, Ruby, Eve forgot her lunch. Please come through, drop off some food for the kid. Ruby, instead of getting in her car, bringing her girl a sandwich, she whips out the phone, gets in her car and records how she's not going to feed her daughter.
For YouTube?
For YouTube. She said the teacher messaged me and said Eve doesn't have lunch. And then she gets on YouTube and is like, well, it was Eve's responsibility to pack that lunch. And my kid's not going to learn responsibility if I just go and feed them. She's 6. She's 6. In kindergarten going on to first grade.
Who hurt you?
Obviously somebody. Other punishments include one of her oldest boys, Chad, not having a bed to sleep on for 7 months.
How old was Chad?
Chad was like 15 or 16 when this was going on.
I mean, at that point, not having a bed is a pretty important...
Oh, it gets deeper than that. So Chad did something wrong, which was prank his younger brother. He told him, hey, we're going to Disneyland. And the kid ran outside and was like, oh my God. And then he was like, no, we're not going to Disneyland, which is an evil prank, but not one that should cost you your bed. And he also left him dangling from a basketball hoop once or something like that. Anyhow, Ruby was like, enough of your nonsense. If you don't know how to respect this family and you're so shameful and committing all these sins, then we're moving to a new house. I mean, she wasn't moving because he did this, but they were moving to a new house and she's like, guess what? You don't get a room. Russell gets the biggest room downstairs where the boys would have gotten a room and they will reserve a room for Chad. Are you hearing me? They will reserve a room for Chad post punishment where he can go and sleep.
She's punishing her son for these pranks that kids do. I nearly killed my sister when I was little by making a concoction of perfumes and lotions and trying to get her to drink them.
Like, who hasn't put their siblings in mortal danger accidentally on purpose? I closed a car door on my cousin's hand once. It was
my sister also broke her arm trying to copy a cheerleading routine I did.
My brother regularly practiced wrestling moves on me. Like, I could have died. I mean, these things happen. Okay?
Wow.
It's not like these are pranks.
My parents did not think to take my bed away for 7 months for something like that.
Okay, so I mean, take a beating, hit me, slap me, put me over your knee and spank me. But 7 months, because I want you guys to think about this, okay? January to July is 7 months, okay? Are you like, so when you think of a 7-month block, please try to think about what could be going on in these 7 months. If you start at the beginning of the year, New Year's, what's it called? Easter. You have 6 kids. I'm sure some birthdays and stuff came around.
Winter, spring, summer. Let's just keep it at
you know
that.
what I mean? So
temperature wise, that's crazy.
So that means that during these months, this young man, because he's like, teenage boys are going in that growth spurt, like, so he's a big guy, doesn't have a room, has to sleep on a beanbag on the floor. You do it for one night, you do it for 2 nights, you're feeling bad. You do it for a week, you do it 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It's getting kind of bizarre. Every night, everyone's going to their room, going to sleep. You're saying goodnight to your mom, dad. You know that there is a room in the house that is technically yours. You're just not allowed to go in there and sleep. You have to resign yourself to sleep on a mother-loving beanbag on the floor. And so you do it for a few months. Maybe your body's starting to ache, back pains, neck pains. You can't stretch out. This kid is not short. He looks like a tall young man. He can't stretch out. He can't really get super comfortable on a beanbag chair. And then another month, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, mom's not showing you any mercy. She's going to bed. You're probably sick of that beanbag. You guys maybe lock eyes. She looks at you and just says, good night. What? That is evil. She knows you're in pain. She knows you're not getting a good night's sleep. How can you? She's going upstairs to sleep in a gorgeous bed. I mean, she's given us house tours. The bed is enormous and comfortable looking, and she's on there looking happy and innocent and stuff. And her son is downstairs sleeping on the floor on a beanbag. Not for a little while, but for a freaking long time. Chad revealing this to the viewers is not something I think Ruby wanted out there, because there's a video where she's talking about personal responsibility and how the kids are not going to be able to have phones, video games, internets, computers, iPad, consoles, nothing for the summer, because they had done they had committed some tiny transgression that kids always commit, like lying about a small thing or it was just some BS reason. And you can see her kids are there, heart sunken, forlorn. Oh man, and they're crying, they're sad, and she's just like, get it on camera, get those tears on camera. I'm not gonna let you have fun this summer, and you deserve it, right? And the kids have to say like, oh yeah, it's my fault, I did this stuff to myself. And you're watching this, and like, her audience was obviously Mormons in the beginning, but as this continued and she started getting popular and brand deals, and YouTube's probably recommending her to a lot of people are cluing in to what she's saying, and they're starting to get really freaking worried about these kids, so much so that some of the viewers even call CPS on her and Child Protective Services. And it turns out that they're not the only ones. Like, she's had Child Protective Services called on her before. But I think what's been happening is that they'll go over there and they'll see this, like, good looking white woman with a beautiful house, a husband, all these like pretty kids, and they're like, obviously someone's just smack talking you. You know what I mean?
Stereotypical American family.
Yeah, they're probably like, you know what? This is obviously BS. The family looks perfect and beautiful and everything. And that's how she's been flying under the radar. But then when that bed thing came out with Chad, I think things got too hot because she stopped posting on 8 passengers. Or maybe that's the reason. Because I'm about to blow your mind again, okay? I thought Ruby was like evil. Like, how could you do this? She has all these evil thoughts, she has all these evil desires, and she's out here to hurt her kids. Turns out, Ruby is a student training at the feet of the master of evil, the ultimate Karen, the mega Karen, the be-all, end-all Mormon Karen.
Allegedly,
and in my opinion, I really believe this about these women, okay? Allegedly, goddamn allegedly, okay? But I really believe this. These are my beliefs. Nobody's changing my mind here. Jody Hildebrandt is the master here. Jody Hildebrandt is the mastermind, and I'm going to let you know why I believe that is super duper factual, and why I believe that the more relevant story to be looking at here is not Ruby Franke. It's Jody Hildebrandt. Okay?
Who is that?
So Jody Hildebrand, who is she? She's a psychologist and a counselor. She works at a place called Connections with an X. And after 8 Passengers is all done, Ruby Franke moves on to Connections and then does the worst thing she could have done, which is give Jody Hildebrandt a platform on her enormously successful YouTube page. And together, these 2 women get on there and start spewing the most vile, delusional things wrapped up in flowery language that never really points to anything, but really makes you believe that you're evil. What do you mean?
I need an example of that. I need to know what you're talking about.
Okie dokie. So, say, for example, you're suffering with mental health issues. I know I am. I have depression issues. I take medication for it. If I were to talk to one Jody Hildebrandt, she would tell me, and I'm not kidding here, She would tell me that my mental health is a product of shame that I am like suppressing. Shame is the product of sins I have committed. Ergo, are you following me here? Follow this geometry, okay?
Go ahead.
I have depression. Depression is from shame. Shame is from sin. Sin is the cause of depression. Your depression is a sin.
This is a woman who actually has a degree in psychology?
That's what's scary, and you don't even know we are at the tip of the iceberg. This thing goes so deep.
How can she even make a comment like that? You literally have to take courses within your degree that show you scientifically what these diseases are on a chemical and hormonal level and how they affect the brain.
I think I know what the problem is here. You're under the assumption that Jody Hildebrand was out to help people. And no, she was not. She had the certifications. She had the ability to help people, but that was not her goal, allegedly, and in my opinion. In my opinion, that was not her goal. She wanted power and money. And she was like, what can I do to get this? I am a psychiatrist, psychologist working in the Mormon church. And they don't really believe, like, if you guys know anything about the LDS church and Mormons, like, they're not really with this new age mental health stuff. They think homosexuality is a huge sin. They don't support, like, I mean, every archaic religious value you can think of is held by these Mormon people. They think black people are evil. They think that, like in the end times, God's going to save us all and make my skin white and I can be wholesome and delightsome again. That's real.
Wait, is that to date? That's an actual real belief that they believe that people of color are going to turn white and that God is going to come and save them? God is saving me God is snatching away my melanin and saying, I've saved you?
Yep.
You've cursed me, bro.
That's why I used to love it when Mormons came to my door.
Oh my, yeah, you're educated.
I used to love it when Mormons came to my door. I'd be like, come, let's talk. But so that's Mormonism. And you know what? People say like, you got to respect us. Like, I don't care for it. I think it's a bunch of weirdo nonsense. That's me. That's my opinion. You're welcome to believe in anything that you want, and I respect everybody's right to believe in everything they want. And obviously, there are going to be people out there who think that I'm certifiable and that I believe in a bunch of mumbo jumbo, and you have that right as well. But I'm letting you know right now that I think that whole book is hokum. So, who is Jodi Hildebrand, and why do I think that she is the main Don, the one in charge, the big boss here? Well, after hearing about the story, obviously I just did a deep dive. I knew I wanted to cover it, so I want to see like what's going on here, who are the players, how are they involved, what have they done? And that's when I stumbled upon a YouTube page called Mormon Stories. And boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is a page that is held by a professional. Is he a lawyer or he's a psychiatrist? He's one of those things, whatever. He's the one who runs a channel, and the guy is an ex-Mormon, and it's basically a channel that has ex-Mormons coming out, telling their stories, how they escaped the church, other things like that. And on this show, and in this, hi Salem, yeah, that very one, that Jody. You want to weigh in here, buddy? Yeah, I think so too. Salem's got something to say to y'all. Show some respect. Mm-hmm. He said, that's all I have to say about that, and I hope you all heard him. We're going to pivot a little bit, and I'm going to move from talking about Ruby and the 8 passengers and go to Jodi Hildebrand for a moment, and I'm going to make the connection about why, in my opinion, all of this that's happening with 8 passengers is just a symptom or a side effect of what Jodi Hildebrand has been doing for decades. Now, let's start with Mormonism first, because obviously that's super important and relevant to the story. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Mormonism or the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints, it's not like your regular church, okay? Where you go in on Sunday and there's like a dude at the front and he's saying all the things, reading the Bible verses and whatnot.
What do you mean dude at the front?
The guy who's in charge of the thing.
Who's the dude? You mean the priest?
The father or whatever.
Steve! It's Steve.
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 Okay,
right,
whatever.
Right,
like the father, the priest, the bishop, whatever. the guy at the front. The guy at the front reading all the stuff. No.
Okay, yeah.
Whatever. You know what I'm talking about. He has the mic. He's the only one with the mic. So he's up there doing his thing, and then you come back on Sunday, and the hat goes around. You pass the hat around. That's not how Mormons do it. Okay, they are isolated. They like to live in their own little communities, and they have like rankings in the church and also like an organizational structure based on like population and where people are in the church. So you have like your wards, and a ward might be 100 to like 500 people, and you guys all go to the same meeting house to, discuss God, and other stuff. And then
Does
you
meeting
have
house mean church?
no, there are temples, by the way.
Oh, so it's not. Okay.
But the meeting house is like, I think somebody's house who's like top or something like that, or a house that the church owns and y'all go to it. Anyhow, it's the meeting house. And then there's a stake, and a stake has to have like 5 or 6 wards that, have a meeting house that people can get to in the middle. And then after that, there's a district, and after that, other stuff. And then within the hierarchy of people who are Mormon, you have the family unit, and the husband is called the priesthood holder, and that's real. He's in charge. Y'all got to do what he says. He's in charge of everything. He'll be in charge of, and then you have your bishops, who are the head honchos at the church. And then you have higher up than them, people who are called not the Ark of the Covenant.
Stop right now.
It's not the...
What state is this in?
It's not. That's an Indiana Jones thing. That's my bad. It's called the Quorum of the 70. And honestly, I'm not that far off, okay? Reading about this, I was like,
I'm done.
J.K. Rowling's not even that inventive or creative. Because Mormon's got it on and popping, okay? So the Quorum of the 70, there's like 12 quorums of the 70. The 70 is like, I'm not going to get into that, but there's 12 quorums of the 70, and some of them are like more important than others. And the guy who's a quorum of the, so basically these quorums like divide the world up. So, if you got beef and you're in Holland or something, you have to go to the third quorum of the 70 because he rules over like West Africa or I guess East Africa and North Europe or something. I don't know, whatever. So
it's complicated, eh?
it's super complicated, and you're immersed in it. And I think that's by design. First of all, let's not forget that Mormonism was discovered by some young buck named Joseph who wanted to marry a bunch of women. I'm not even going to get into all that. And you have all these things that sound so crazy and important and ritualistic, and you find out the guy's in charge, his name is like Dave or Andrew. What the
AT&T?
You know what I mean? Like, you guys should name your kids like Jebediah or something if you're going to live like that.
Jebediah is a name that I believe would be very fitting in that.
Let me know that my priesthood holder's name is Andrew, and I'm laughing in your face. Let me know that some guy named Rick is the third quorum of the 70. Like, get a grip. You know what I mean?
I have to say, the term priesthood holder in and of itself is kind of
offensive?
Funny to me. If somebody wanted to be referred like that and they asked me, I don't think I would respectfully be able to react.
Oh, Mormons wouldn't tolerate that.
That's
Mormons wouldn't
insane.
tolerate that from you, bro. That is your priesthood holder, and if he says you gotta do something, you better do it. You guys make these
sounds, I don't know, it just has like a weird sort of double entendre.
I mean, there's way more. So like, you have to get a referral from the temple to get married.
What? Hold on. A
it's
referral?
It's called a temple recommend. Okay.
What is the temple saying to me?
You go and interview with your bishop and say, it's me, I want to get married, and this is the girl. And your bishop will be like, y'all good? Y'all straight?
Is it based on the understanding that the bishop has seen both of these people grow up and stuff?
Yeah, you're in it. You're in your stake, you're in your ward, you're in your district, you're
so
at your temple.
Is the bishop, so sorry, I'm trying to get a good grasp. Is the bishop also like a matchmaker at this point?
No, but he's approving things. You can't get married.
So you can't, I understand. But just solely, you only need the bishop's approval to get married.
You need what's called a temple recommend.
Which is signed off by the bishop.
You got it.
That's hilarious.
Oh, yeah. And if your priesthood holder ain't with it, then you probably won't get your temple recommend because the bishop probably knows who your priesthood holder is. And there are even area managers in this, in the church. Area supervisors and things. Like, I mean, it gets deep. So that's just to give you guys an idea of what we're dealing with. That's the Mormon church. That's the Jesus Christ Church of Latter-day Saints. And it gets way deeper than that. So let's bring this back, okay? We're talking about Jodi Hildebrandt. So Jodi Hildebrandt operates inside of this church. Now, she is a licensed psychologist who likes to torture people, allegedly. And in my opinion, she's been torturing people. And she gets all of her referrals to her from bishops Okay, so just stay with me here. Bishops give you your temple recommend and tell you that you're allowed to get married. And then if you're having issues and stuff like that, the first person you're going to go to is probably your bishop and say, hey, me and my wife are having issues. It's this, that, and the other. And they will send you to a counselor or give you a recommendation on how to help your marriage. Now, I'm sure that some of these bishops are really trying to help the couple, right? Because they like one of the big things about being Mormon is that you want to have a big family, you want to grow the group, all that stuff. Like that's part of it. There's a lot of incentive to make sure that families stay together, and that people have a thriving marriage. And in that way, it's actually not bad to think about. That's really lovely. But there is something sinister going on here. So a lot of bishops have started recommending people to go see Jodi Hildebrandt when they're upset. You listen to Jody speak, and she says a lot of intelligent sounding words that if you're not super duper paying attention or are not entering it with a critical mind, and you wouldn't be if you're coming at this with a religious lens and your bishop sent you here, because you got to understand, this is not just like someone says, oh, that's your bishop. People love their bishop when they're in the church. They respect him. They really believe that this guy is dialed into God. You know what I mean? They believe that God's working through this person and that this person has your best interest at heart, that they have a connection up there, and you've devoted your life to this, which is why I was saying that I think the isolation of those communities is intentional. They don't want you seeing how outside people live. They don't want you having the opportunity to compare your existence with the existence of other people in the world, right? So people really respect their bishop and they really take what he says to heart. So when this guy is sending people to Jodi Hildebrandt, you have to realize the patients that are going to go become her patients really are holding her in high esteem, and they are going in there ready to do what Jody says, ready to show her that they're planning to work hard for her, and so she can let their bishop know that this couple is putting in the work.
Understandably, yeah. She's gained that recognition based on the bishop, and she doesn't need another voucher or anybody to double check anything.
She does, and that's going to become a theme here with Jody, where she uses the reputation of other people to increase her own legitimacy, and she's been helping people at the church in really sinister ways. I don't know that she's ever helped anybody in a positive way, and these are my opinions. Please remember that. Jody, I know you're quick with the lawyer. I mean, you're in prison right now. You're probably not checking for me, but this is alleged. This is alleged, okay? I know Mormons don't mess with black people because y'all want God to come and wash my skin and make it white again. That's why I really like when Mormons used to come to my door and try to preach the gospel to me or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. So
what was the argument? Did you ever mention that point?
Oh, I always mention it to them, and they're like, oh, so what you have to understand is like for them, they don't dig deep. Whatever is happening to you, it's a sin, and if you repent, God's going to make you delightsome and lovable and wholesome again, and yada yada yada.
Who?
To him, white people are what's right. They would be shocked.
So God is a white supremacist? I'm following along.
I mean, that's how I'm reading it. Okay, so let's continue. Jody is super reputable in the church, and people go to see her. And when they go to see her, she starts off slow and says like things that, like I said, sound intelligent, but really don't lead anywhere, but really make you buy into what she's saying. She'll say that there is distortion and truth, and you have to live in truth, and that everything that she doesn't like, and these are my opinions, but it seems like this, everything that she doesn't like is a distortion.
She meaning Jody.
Jody. So if you come in and you're like, I prefer to handle my arguments in this way, I'm a confrontational, or like I like to talk things out with my wife. I don't want us to have like separate assignments. Jody will be like, that's distortion. And you have some sort of shame that's inside you that's causing you to reject what I'm saying. And then she'll...
Ooh, God complex. Okay.
Oh, right? And then it goes deeper. As you continue on in her therapy, she'll insist that you don't go see anybody else. And if you try to go seek help from another source, she'll say that that's the distortion and the evil and the sin that's coming up in you and the shame. And the reason you want to go see somebody else is because you have shame. And remember that triangle I drew out for you guys before. You have the thing that you're doing, which is caused by shame. Shame is a result of sin. Ergo, the problem is a sin, right? So if I am if I like to watch adult movies, right? I like to watch adult movies. It's causing me shame, and that's the sin. And the sin is adult movies. And that goes for anything legitimate like that you can think of. Mental health issues, you have shame about it, and your shame is what's causing you to act out. The shame is related to your sin, and the sin is the mental health thing. Mental health is a sin. And it goes on and on like that. But she says it in a way that is so convincing. I listened to some of her content, okay? And obviously I'm coming at it with a critical mind because I am going to be covering it for this channel, for this episode. But I really tried to like convince myself, like, you know what? Just listen and pretend that you were in a crisis and you came to this woman for help. And man, I gotta tell you, she sounds comforting in the beginning.
Does she?
She does. She does. She sounds like she's going to solve all your problems, especially if you're somebody who wants to be close to God. She really does sound like she is that woman.
That makes sense though, right? Because she wants to earn your trust and make you believe that she's there for you, to help you and support you.
She says that you have to take rigorous personal responsibility, that you have to have impeccable honesty and humility. Impeccable honesty.
Sounds familiar.
Right. And it honestly reminds me of that Tom Cruise church, Scientology. Because if y'all remember about the Scientology thing, the whole thing was tell me your secrets as you rise up the ranks. So she would get you to tell her everything. And if she felt like you weren't telling her something that was juicy enough, she would put you in a position so uncomfortable that when she came to ask you again, you would say whatever it took to just like admit to a sin. And I'm going to get deeper into that and explain what I mean. So how am I getting all this information? Did I just watch Jody's things and come up with my own analysis? Nope. This is coming from a great source, an incredibly brave source, someone you should support, someone whose video you should go watch. This is Jessie Hildebrandt, the niece of Jody Hildebrandt. Jody is sisters with Jesse's dad, okay? And that's her aunt. And she enters Jesse's life and straight up ruins it, destroys it, dismantles it, takes it apart, and makes this poor girl a wreck of a human being. So how does it begin? Let's tell you a little bit about Jessie Hildebrandt. So Jessie's growing up inside the Mormon church, and she loves it. She's read the Book of Mormon more than 3 or 4 times. And that is actually a huge accomplishment for somebody. And she did it when she was like 12 or 13. And that's a huge accomplishment. The channel that I mentioned earlier, Mormon Stories, the doctor of psychology over there, he's only read the Book of Mormon once or twice. And this preteen adolescent had read it a bunch of times. She was really into her faith. She would go to school and pass out Book of Mormon stuff. But one thing that kind of got her was that she was also really inquisitive. She never questioned the religion, but she had questions about what she was reading sometimes, and her parents didn't like it. So Jessie brings up that documentary that was out on Netflix not too long ago called Keep Sweet and something like that. I'll put the title on. And she was saying that that's essentially how her mom was, like that keep sweet, never do anything that's going to ruffle any feathers. So people didn't really like that she was asking questions. They considered her a bit of a rebel. And then she gets a boyfriend in school, which is super normal. Even though Jessie is queer, she starts dating this guy when she's 16. He's 20, which is gross, but he is somebody who is a returning missionary. And if you're an RM, like a returning missionary, and a missionary is somebody who's gone like across the world to go spread the word of Jesus Christ or help people, and mostly they go to African countries and try to convince them to murder gay people or to bring the death penalty back.
Yikes.
But they say they're doing other stuff too, and I'm sure that they are, but a lot of it's evil. So a returning missionary is like super, super prestigious, and her parents and the church didn't really bat an eye when their daughter was dating a returning missionary, because for them that was like very prestigious, and looks and appearance are everything in this community. So she's dating this guy and she's talking to him on the phone once. She gets into an argument with her mom. She goes down to the basement to start chatting with her boyfriend, and her parents are upstairs kind of like, oh gosh, what am I going to do with that girl? Bad idea. Because you know who was in attendance during that little function when Jessie lost her cool? Her aunt Jody Hildebrandt. And Jody saw that, and in my opinion, allegedly saw that and started salivating. Okay, because she knew that she had found a victim.
A science experiment.
She knew that she had found a victim to really friggin' punish. Okay.
Yep.
She tells her brother, Jessie's dad, and Jessie's mom that, you know what? Leave her with me. Y'all know me, I'm Jody. You guys know that bishops love me. They send everybody to me. I'm someone who can really bring your daughter back to the right light. And they were like, you know what? Fine. Because I'm not really sure what to do. And she's doing this. She's having this conversation with them right as Jesse and her parents had a fight. So she's taking advantage of a super vulnerable, emotionally vulnerable moment. So the parents say, okay, and then Jody decides, you guys are not going to tell her anything at all. Though they're at a party, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but this whole thing is happening at the grandparents' 50th engagement party. And the party...
That's such a family trend in my family to like have a fight when there is a social event, a birthday, a gathering. What is up with everybody?
And
get it
all
together.
The things you think is going to happen, being kidnapped by a family member and tortured for years on end is really not how you think fights are going to end.
Oh, God, no.
Okay? Yeah. So they're at Jody's house, and she tells them, you know what? She's downstairs. Leave her downstairs. You guys get the hell out of here. Go on, pack up, leave. Don't tell your daughter anything. And I'm going to let her know that, it's a new day. So Jesse's left there by her parents, abandoned essentially, to live part-time with Jody and part-time with part-time with her grandparents. And Jody begins immediately. She goes to Jesse and she's like, your parents left, you're going to be in my care. And she just starts pouring into Jesse's head, you're evil. And the reason you're doing all the things that you're doing is because you are evil. Jesse's like 12 or 13 at this time.
Stop it.
Or 16 at this time. And she's like, yeah, you're evil. The reason you're doing all this stuff is because you're evil. And I'm not exaggerating, guys. Like, this is what she said. And this is an interview this is from an interview that I saw with Jesse Hildebrandt on Mormon Stories. And for God's sakes, go check it out because it is worth it. It is like 3 hours long or something, but it is worth it. So she tells her you're evil, that Satan is working through you, Jesse, and that God is working through me. And remember, y'all, Jesse was in the church, loving the church, loving her religion, loving her community. So when this woman, a bishop recommended healthcare professional related to her family, came and told her that, this child took it to heart. She really believed that she was evil, and this progressed far. Jody took advantage of having her in her custody to start abusing this girl. She would duct tape Jesse's mouth, and I mean sometimes for 12 hours a day, weeks and months on end, and nobody was allowed to speak to Jesse. Why? Excellent question. Jesse's a master manipulator. Everything she says is a lie, ergo her speech must be cut off. Everything that gives Jesse any sort of sense of value has to be taken away so that we can give her humility. Remember those pillars I was talking about before, about impeccable honesty, rigorous personal responsibility, and humility. So they cut off Jesse's long hair because they know she liked it. They told her, you have to start getting homeschooled because they know she liked school. And then when they saw she was doing well at homeschool, they told her she can't go to school anymore, which is fully illegal. But nobody did anything because it's inside that Mormon community where nobody's going to tell
who's going
on
to complain? Yeah, who's going to tell? Yeah.
So then there's the duct taping. People are not allowed to speak to her. And let me give you guys an example about what I mean.
That's so abusive.
Jody has her own kids, okay? And Jesse's in the kitchen at Jody's house, getting a snack maybe. The kids want to go in there and get a glass of water. So far, nothing's weird, right? I'm just going to go in there and get a glass of water. My cousin's in the room. No, I'm not allowed to enter the kitchen as one of Jody's children if Jesse's in the kitchen already, because she might look at me with a sad face or say something to me and manipulate me with her lying self. So I would have to go get Jody. Jody will yell at Jesse, get the heck out of the kitchen, duct tape her in the hallway so that people can now use the kitchen because Jesse is filth and no one should speak to her.
That is outrageous.
People should be afraid of her.
That's malicious. She's a child.
People should be afraid of her, though. She had her hands and legs bound. If they were going anywhere, she would have her hands bound, duct taped, and made to lay down on the floor in the car. Because if anybody saw you from a passing by driver's side window or something, they might see you in your state, and you'll manipulate them.
How is that any different than a victim that's been kidnapped off the street?
How? Jody's been doing this for years, okay? This is way back in the day.
And oh my God, you know what's really upsetting to me is that this is happening to her during a really formative developmental time for her brain. So all of this is going to be solidified in her head.
It gets worse.
Yeah.
She's 30 now, and this was happening when she was 16. So really catch on, guys. Jody's been up to this forever. So those are some of the things she did. Other things that she did, she forced Jesse to sleep outside in the snow, and that's not an exaggeration. She drove Jesse to the base of a mountain, had her maternal grandparents stand watch at the base of the mountain so that Jesse couldn't run away, and had her run sprints for 6 hours in the cold. Obviously, I told you guys about the hair thing.
For what reason?
This was her making Jesse better after that fight
Has she done all these things herself?
Yo,
What, like, when did God come down into her life, into her dreams, into whatever, and tell her that, I am giving you all of this power to be able to inflict onto children to do whatever you want in my name?
well, let me answer this how I imagine Jody would answer it. That's distortion. You can either live in distortion or you can live in truth.
Jody, you need to get a freaking thesaurus.
Shame. Shame, shame, shame. Duct tape her mouth. She's a devil. Everything that comes out of her mouth is a lie.
Burn me at the stake, bro.
She would tell Jesse that I need impeccable honesty from you and I need you to confess all your sins, so she would have her write them down.
What sins? She's 16 years old, bro. I skipped a class.
Things like that. You would be so sad. She was looking for anything to write down, and she would make things up because nothing was good enough for Jody. Jody would accuse Jesse, who is 16, of being addicted to pornography, addicted to masturbation. And Jesse, who is a Mormon girl, didn't even know that women could actually give themselves self-pleasure. She thought that was exclusively for men. But if she tried to tell Jody this, Jody would just say, you're lying, you're a lying manipulator, and you better confess to this. So she would torture her and torture her and torture her until she would confess to these things. Okay?
You know what it sounds like? I'm sorry to cut you off. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like Jody has an image of what it means to be a bad human being, and these are characteristics that she's identified with. So now she wants to take the most vulnerable of society and mold them in a way so that she feels like the childhood version of her, or whatever version of her that committed these sins, is going to be like, it can repent in this way.
Thank you. Because there's some speculation out there that Jody is a homosexuale. Okay? She's alluded to like having feelings for women before and all that kind of stuff. So I honestly do think that she is addicted to all of these things, has a lot of shame herself, and she's trying to and shame is her thing, right? She's always talking about shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, Jody's overweight. Okay, I'm not saying that I'm like skinny. I'm not here like looking like Sha'Carri Richardson or anything. But girl, what about the rigorous personal responsibility? Like put down
that
the food.
You have, yeah.
Put down the food.
Run
you know
up
I mean?
and down that mountain yourself.
Get up there yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Jessie was vegetarian. She wasn't allowed to eat vegetarian foods. She had food withheld from her. She was malnourished, starving, abused, tortured, and ran away from home. She ran away, went to the police, and was like, please just arrest me. I would rather be in jail than be living with this woman. And people at church, obviously the police brought her back to her guardian, which was Jody. Yeah. So they would still go to temple, which is church, and Jessie would have to sit there, not allowed to speak to anybody. So even if you go to Jessie and you're like, hey, good morning, Jessie, how are you? She would have to do this. She can't even change the expression on her face because Jody's going to tell her, if you look sad, you're doing it on purpose to manipulate people, you master manipulator. So a few people at church, at our temple, actually really got concerned. They're like, something's up. This girl's skinny. She's haggard. Her hair's gone. Like, what's going on here? So they go to the bishop. They go to the bishop and they're like, Bishop, something's up. Please help this girl, see what's going on. The bishop is the guy who's been recommending Jody left and right, and he's not no nice guy. So what does he do? He goes to Jody and gives her a list of all of the people at temple who complained. And what does Jody do? She gets Jessie in the car, drives her to each and every person's house on the list, and gets Jessie to read off of a script, or a script that she's memorized that Jody's given her, to explain how she is a master manipulator and she was manipulating these people at church looking sad and stuff. And while Jessie is reading this pre-arranged script, if she deviates from it even a little bit, she would get a and then Jessie would have to look at the people and say, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I just tried to manipulate you right now by going off script.
I don't even know how to react to that. It's so funny that Jody is the one saying these children are master manipulators when that is exactly what you're doing yourself.
I don't even know how to act right now. It's crazy. So that's Jessie's story. And she escaped. Ultimately, like eventually she ran away. She saw a jacket and some shoes one day and she's like, I'm out of here. She ran until she hit the highway. A nice couple picked her up hitchhiking, and then, long story short, she became homeless, and she is resilient. She survived. She had to go through a lot of therapy to fix herself up. And I know she's, from her interview, super traumatized hearing about all this stuff come out. But she said she felt a personal responsibility to come out and say everything that she knows, because she can see that just like Jody humiliated and manipulated her, she is now doing that to the kids who are the victims of the 8 passengers thing, okay? Jody is out there telling people, like she's training Ruby, in my opinion, to tell the police and stuff the kids are dangerous and that they shouldn't be allowed near other kids. Like, this is textbook. She's been doing this. She told Jesse that she was too dangerous to be spoken to, that other people couldn't talk to her, that she was fearing, that Jody was fearing for her own life if Jesse was around. That's how evil and of Satan she was. She would tell her, like, God doesn't love you, your parents don't love you, you have to do this stuff if you want to be worthy of love. So this woman is textbook. And when I heard this, I'm likening it back to everything I'm reading about 8 passengers and how she's accusing those kids of being SA predators. And this is what she does. It's a rinse and repeat recipe.
So Jody's just out here trying to make a mini me with Ruby.
Yes, and Ruby had a platform and she loved it and she just latched onto it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, she used to get her power through the bishops. And now she's getting her power through the YouTube fame and making all this money. Don't worry, your screen is not broken. This episode just ended up running a lot longer than we thought it would. And so we're going to cut it here and make the second part a part 2. In the meantime, please don't forget to subscribe. And now, here's a word from this week's sponsors. This episode of Bred in Captivity is brought to you by a $7 refund we got when one of the eggs in a carton we ordered was broken. Just the one. The rest were fine. Thank you. Until next time, stay safe.